Hi, I'm Chad, and this is going to be a full guide to taking care of zoysia turf. Now, I'm going to go over things as quick as I can to make this video as short as possible. I will later on make more detailed videos about every part I'm talking about. This is a quick rundown to get you a good start on what you need to do for every single part of owning zoysia turf. Now, I already have a video about fertilization. I'm going to go over it here in this one, but it's going to be quicker. I have a more detailed guide. I'll link that below, and that video should also pop up on the screen, and that's going to be a full detailed video about fertilization of zoysia. So let's get right into this video. Now we're going to go over maintenance and nutrient management of zoysia turf. Proper turf grass nutrition is very important for a healthy lawn. Zoysia grass needs 1/2 pound to 1 pound of slow release nitrogen per 1,000 square feet per year. The first fertilization application of the year should be early April in Central Florida and mid-April in North Florida, and late April anything above North Florida. Now, in South Florida, fertilization applications are going to be made year-round because growth does not stop. Now, grass growing in the shade needs less fertilizer than grass growing in the full sun. Fertilization is also affected by soil types, and if it's newly sodded lawn or an existing lawn. If the soil is sandy with no organic matter, may need more fertilizer than lawn that has been fertilized for years. So there's many different factors into this. So I'm giving you a generalization, but I don't know your soil types and things like that. But I will give you a guide on sandier soil will need more fertilizer, darker soil with more organic matter will need less, shaded areas need less, established lawns need less, newer lawns need more. So things like that are a good guide. So knowing your soil type, which you can get a soil probe and check, put it in the ground and check what type of soil you'll have, and that will give you a good guide. Also, trial and error, using small amounts of fertilizer, checking results, and using more, kind of writing down what you're using to what results you're getting can also make a big difference on knowing of what type of soil you have and how much fertilizer you'll need. Zoysia responds better to spoon feeding the lawn, which is just small amounts applied more frequently, rather than supplying a large amount in like the spring, which is most grasses you do a heavy fertilization in the springtime. The zoysia does not like that. You're going to use a light amount of fertilizer throughout the year rather than a big spring fertilization. That's one of the big differences of zoysia grass than most other turf grasses. Now, 6 applications per year is what you're going to do in most situations. Avoid applying nitrogen fertilizers simply to promote green grass. Only when the growth has slowed down and it's not growing very well, that's when you should use nitrogen to promote growth. You use iron to get the grass green. Now, potassium is a very important nutrient for zoysia grass and should be applied at equal rates of nitrogen. Potassium is important for all turf grasses, but it's more important for zoysia. This is another thing that's different on the nutrient side than other turf grasses. All year long, you're going to want to be using an equal amount of nitrogen to an equal amount of potassium. Most other turf grasses, you use double the amount of nitrogen than you do potassium, not zoysia. Zoysia, you're going to want to use something like a 15-0-15 throughout the year, or a 10-0-10. Whatever amount of nitrogen you put down, put equals amount of potassium down. This is through the spring, summer, and into the fall. Winter time, when your turf is dormant, is the only time you won't be doing this. Now, potassium leaches very easily through the soil. So if we're getting lots of heavy rain and your zoysia isn't responding well, it could be definitely lacking potassium. So when heavy rains come, definitely consider adding more potassium to your zoysia lawn. I would recommend having a bag of 0050, which is potash, pure potassium, on hand all times having zoysia turf. This will be something good to use in the winter time, and as well as in a heavy rainy season where we're getting lots of washout. You're going to want to keep adding that potassium to your zoysia turf. Zoysia is slow to green up in the springtime, so avoid applying nitrogen until after the turf has been fully greened up to avoid damage. Applying fertilizer too early to zoysia to get it to green up and growing when it's not ready can cause damage. Now, delaying spring fertilizer until the turf is actively growing and can use the fertilizer. Do not fertilize too late in the year because this can slow the regrowth in the springtime, and applying nitrogen on zoysia early in the spring and late in the fall significantly increases the risk of large patch / brown patch fungus. So your zoysia will be first to go brown and last to come out green. So zoysia will be the longest time in dormancy and brown throughout the winter time. So a lot of people see St. Augustine, Bermuda's other turf is greening up in the spring and think theirs needs to do the same. No, you need to naturally let that zoysia start to green up and grow on its own before you apply the spring fertilizer. This is extremely important. Be patient. Part of having zoysia is having your grass browner for longer. Let it naturally wake up, and then when it starts to go brown in the fall, let it go brown. Don't be adding nitrogen to keep it going, to keep up with the rest of the lawns you see around you. Your grass is different than theirs, so that's part of having zoysia. Now, if it starts to brown out in the summertime, and which could be drought or other things like that, but if it's not, you can add that iron to green up your zoysia turf in the growing season. You may even have to apply iron up to every 6 weeks to help maintain that green color. Iron will not promote new growth, and zoysia is a very thick turf, and we want it to grow, but we want it to be slow growing. So we don't need to be adding nitrogen to promote growth consistently. And a side note though is iron is not a supplement for nitrogen. You still do need nitrogen for it to grow, but you don't want to overuse it. So it is going to be a balanced game of using low amounts of nitrogen throughout the year and then iron to help it keep it greened up. And if my videos have helped you, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. The channel is growing amazingly, and I really appreciate the support, and it helps my videos get out there to homeowners like you looking for this advice. Also, email me at turforganics904@gmail.com. I do 40-minute online consultations for $90 to make custom programs for your lawn, and I also sell these awesome DIY lawn kits. Email me for more information. Now let's talk about mowing. With proper fertilization now, zoysia grass is required regular mowing during the summertime to look its best. Even though it's not growing fast, you still want to mow it every 5 to 7 days. You don't want to be cutting huge parts of the grass blade at one time. You just want to be mowing smaller bits of the turf. So it's very important in the growing season to keep mowing regularly. Now, zoysia should be mowed weekly and reach a height of 3 to 4 inches. Zoysia should be mowed at a height of 1 3/4 inch to 2.5 inches. Now, clippings should be left on the ground after mowing unless you have excessive clumps of dead grass on the surface. Then you need to either bag those or rake those up and gift those off the lawn, because those will suffocate sections of the turf. But you want to get the clippings, as long as it's not too many, back into the soil. Now, you can use a sharp rotary mower or a reel mower on zoysia grass. So you do have the option of using both. Like, unlike Bermuda really only needs to be mowed with a reel type mower to get the look you're looking for. You can use a rotary mower on zoysia turf, but you need to be mow it frequently and at the proper height to get the results you're looking for. Watering zoysia turf. Now, zoysia responds to drought by turning brown and going dormant in a short period of time, within a week under most drought conditions. Now, zoysia grass stays dormant for extended periods of time, and once irrigation or rainfall consumes, zoysia will regain its green color. Now, watering zoysia should be as an as-need basis, but that goes pretty much for all types of turf grass. The best way to water any established lawn is when the leaf blades begin to fold up, wilt, or turn this blue-gray color. And if you walk on the lawn, footprints remain visible on the grass. That's when it's dry and you need to add water. Applying 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of water per zone. Now, this will apply water to roughly the top 8 inches of the soil where most of the roots are. Now, of course, watering in full sun to shade and sandy soil to loamy soil to clay soils are all different. Now, summer watering is usually anywhere from 2 to 4 days a week, depending on all those factors. And your coverage needs to run about 30 to 50 minutes per zone. Again, you want to get 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. And if you want to find that out, you can set cans out around in the lawn and run your irrigation and time how long it takes to get that 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of water. From my experience, it's around 30 to 50 minutes per watering zone. But the best way to water is when you see signs of drought. Then you want to water the next morning, and it's very important to still water 1 day a week in the wintertime. Now let's talk about thatch and zoysia grass. Zoysia typically develops a thick layer of thatch in a few years after it's established, especially when it's over-fertilized with nitrogen, which is common. Thatch is a layer of living grass and dead grass between the green vegetation and the soil. This thatch must be controlled and removed mechanically to maintain a good-looking zoysia lawn. This is most often done by vertical mowing or power raking every year or two. Now you can also scout the lawn shortly after that zoysia naturally greens up in the spring to help reduce thatch buildup, but this can cause injury to the lawn and is a little bit risky. If you don't water enough after scalping, you can do damage to the lawn and not all of it may come back. So power raking and verticutting is the safest way to get thatch out of your lawn, and that should be done every 2 to 3 years. Now, one of the most important methods of reducing the thatch buildup is not applying too much nitrogen and mowing at the proper heights and the proper frequency to prevent thatch buildup. Now let's talk about weeds in zoysia turf. One of the best attributes of zoysia grass is the ability to resist weed invasions due to it being so thick. That's as long as it's being taken care of properly. Now, insects, disease, lack of watering, things like that, not proper fertilization or mowing can create voids in that dense zoysia turf, and then definitely weeds can invade from there. Zoysia is very tolerant to many effective pre- and post-emergent herbicides, giving it a wide range of products that can be used on your zoysia lawn. Now, most of the products that you can use on St. Augustine can also be used on zoysia, but always read the label to make sure the herbicide is safe for your zoysia lawn. And do not apply herbicides if your zoysia lawn is stressed or dry. That can cause more damage. Next, let's talk about insects in zoysia turf. Hunting billbugs can be a serious issue on zoysia. Billbugs feed on the roots, causing the turf to die in like irregular shapes and patterns. The damage most often occurs in the fall and the spring. The stems and rhizomes break very easily, so pretty much the turf grass can break off very easily and have feeding marks even on the grass blades. The turf will not hold together if you cut it. It will start to fall apart. Most damage occurs on really sandy soil or dry soil. Mole crickets and grubs can also damage your zoysia lawn. Mole crickets feed on the grass roots and leaf blades, and their tunneling underneath can really stir up and damage the soil, which breaks up the root system, causing the plant to dry out. Now, white grubs, like billbugs, feed on the roots as well and can turn your zoysia lawn yellow, wilt, and even die out if it's bad enough. Both of these insects and pests are often attract raccoons, skunks, armadillos, birds, and they may cause more damage themselves. So having a lot of armadillos, moles, and things like that digging in the lawn can be a good sign that you have these pest issues within the soil. Sod webworms can also damage zoysia lawn. This damage can look like chewing on the grass blades and even chewing off just the green tissue of the turf, leaving this white grass blade from the leaf tips, and sometimes completely chewed off. So make sure when you're using an insecticide that it has these pests on the label, and that way you know, as long as you follow the instructions, that that insecticide will work for any of the pests your zoysia grass can be having. Diseases for zoysia turf. Now, the most troubling disease for zoysia grass is large patch, which is also known as brown patch fungus. This occurs in the fall and into the winter time when soil temperatures reach about 65 to 75 degrees. So it's definitely more rare to have this fungus in zoysia. It definitely can happen, but the recovery can be slow due to the zoysia grass being dormant for so long and zoysia grass so slow to grow, and it takes the longest to recover as well. So you may see these large patch spots for a very long time, even though they'll be treated. So you'll be seeing damage well into possibly into the summertime. So that's why it's very important to try to prevent these from not using excessive moisture, which can cause these, as well as using a fungicide in the times they are active, especially if you've had it before. Large patch and brown patch fungus is likely to come back. Again, even after it's treated, you're just gonna see those spots for a long time because of that slow recovery rate of the zoysia turf. Now, other diseases that impact zoysia grass are dollar spot and rust. Dollar spot typically occurs when nitrogen levels are low, but this can be easily corrected with a light application of nitrogen. Now, the rust occurs during mild, humid weather and appears as a small yellow to orange little spots on the leaves. Fungicides are the most effective, but most often, if you just keep frequently mowing, the removal of that rust spots will go away and it doesn't really damage the turf. Pillar G, Headway G, and Armada are good fungicides to treat and prevent that fungus. So luckily you don't need to use any type of special fungicide. These are very common fungicides that work very well. Now, zoysia can have some other issues as well, such as excessive shade, compacted soil. Zoysia really shows when soil gets compacted. It's way more obvious in zoysia than most other turf grasses. So aerations might be a frequent thing that you want to do. Over and under watering, improper mowing, high traffic, low pH can all cause poor performance in zoysia turfs. So it's important to recognize what's possibly causing your zoysia not to look good and get that issue corrected. So that's kind of why I made this video, to help you, give you a place to maybe at least eliminate what it's not and figure out how to care for it. I know this was a longer video, but I got some requests once I made a zoysia video for more of them. So I wanted to just go over a full guide on how to care for your zoysia. Now, I'm going to make more detailed videos just about the watering and things like that, so it's not such a long video, but if you stuck around this long, you have a pretty good idea of how to care for your zoysia lawn. And if this video helped, please like and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate the support, and email me at turforganics904@gmail.com. I make these awesome DIY lawn kits and can make you a custom program for your zoysia lawn with my online consultations. Everyone, I appreciate the support and have a great rest of your day.